Besides being my animation crush, which that would make a video into itself, people who have animation crushes. We kind of all have one, right? It's like a secret single behavior. Anyway, besides from her being my animation crush, Teela has always been one of my top favorite characters in Masters of the Universe. She's had a lot of looks over the years, and some of the looks have spawned questions, and some have just been accepted as that's just Teela in a different outfit, which is, in this case, she's blonde and has a different outfit. Sometimes she's blonde, sometimes she's a redhead, sometimes she goes back and forth. What can I say? You know, most women change their hairstyle and their hair color. I mean, come on, haven't you ever dated one or been married to one or known one? Women change their hair like most men change their socks. Do men even change their socks? Anyway, she's also been green on occasion, and we're going to get into that because that plays special importance today. She's also had other less fan-approved changes, like becoming overly muscular, like she was on some kind of Eternian steroids or something, most notably in the new Netflix Masters of the Universe Revelation show. So the point is, Teela has changed a lot over the years, going back and forth with her hairstyle, her body type, and whether or not she has a gold bikini. But one of her looks that has brought about the most question over the years has been her snake armor. In fact, this was asked at Comic-Con in 2007 when we first showed the King Grayskull figure, and a fan in the audience asked if the 2000X series ever had plans for this. And while I have other looks of Teela that I happen to like, mostly because it's a good way to hire girls to dress up at San Diego Comic-Con and entice people to come visit the booth, the red-headed version with the snake armor is very classic, and, well, aside from the other looks she's had over the years, it's kind of the one she's most known for and easily recognized. I mean, if you just saw this image and I didn't tell you it was Teela, would you know it? So, her toy look, the look that shows up in toys a lot, even when it doesn't, because there have obviously been plenty of Teela toys that have not had the red snake armor. But she started with this. Her first toy ever was red snake armor, and her most recent toy in the Origins line also has this. I guess the Revelation toy maybe doesn't count. Alright, so the question is, like was asked at the San Diego Comic-Con panel, what is with the snake armor? Were there ever plans for it in the 2000X show? Was there an explanation for it in the continuity? Why does she wear it? Well, there are answers, and I was given many of the notes for what was going to happen in the 2000X show, and a lot of that wound up in the Masters of the Universe Classics bios, which I kind of considered an unofficial sort of sequel to the show. Alright, so Snake Men, right? We've got Snake Men. They were a big part of 2000X. They're bad guys. They're slithery. They serve the unnamed one, yada yada, King Hiss. Cobra Khan is a descendant. All right, we know who they are. We know that there's armies of them, and that most importantly, they are evil in terms of the fact that they actually eat and devour human beings. All right, so let's talk about Teela and why she wears armor reminiscent of what would be considered the evil snake faction. And for that, we have to go back to her creation, and I've covered this on a few videos, the fact that Teela was originally two different action figures. The version without the snake armor was the Warrior, and this version with the snake armor was known as the Goddess, which then got changed to the Sorceress, changed back to the Goddess, and then became the Sorceress again. But anyway, that's not important right now. The point is, she started off as two action figures where you could buy one character, one physical toy, and by putting the armor on or the armor off, she could represent two completely different characters. And again, I've made a few videos about this. I just want to use that as background for what we're going to jump into. So, in the original mini-comics, they differentiated between the two characters represented by one action figure by making Teela, the Warrior, blonde and having her not wear snake armor. And then the Goddess, or the Sorceress, which she was called the Sorceress in her first appearance, she became the Goddess after that, she wore the snake armor and had green skin, again to differentiate her from Teela. Now, where it really gets confusing is in later issues and in later continuity and different canon and different issues, the snake armor was worn by Teela. So, originally worn by the character that was supposed to be the Sorceress / the Goddess, whatever you want to call her. I know, Masters of the Universe history is weird and confusing. So, yes, this shot here is Teela wearing the snake armor, versus these shots here are the Sorceress wearing the snake armor. So, it's absolutely confusing. Is she the Sorceress? Is she Teela? Is she the Goddess? What is going on? Even one of the mini-comics tried to make sense of all of this by saying Teela was a magical clone of the Sorceress that Skeletor created in order to raise the baby as his own and then marry it. because Skeletor's creepy. And then, of course, the sorceress slash goddess, the person wearing the snake armor, combines with blonde Teela. They uncombine, combine again, and are now fully two characters. Oh, I know, it gives you a headache. So let's just say this. Teela sometimes wears the snake armor in images, in fan art, in official photography. And sometimes the goddess wears the snake armor, especially when she's green-skinned. So there's the real-world answer to this, which of course is that Masters of the Universe is a barbarian property. Well, it started off as Barbarian Space Army, could be anything, but barbarian won out as the theme. And you can see that the barbarian version of He-Man, which went on to dominate the line, is taken directly from 1960s, 1970s artwork of barbarians, and that literally is where the design influence comes from. So Teela, as the female barbarian in the line, was very much modeled after the artwork that was popular at the time. And there are a lot of motifs, and call them tropes, of barbarian warriors, male and female, and how they dress, what they wear, what they wield, etc., etc. And, well, snakes are a big part of this. You often see barbarian characters, whether it's Conan or someone else, Red Sonja, battling snakes, and snakes being part of their armor and part of their adventures. So incorporating snakes into the armor of the character that was meant to be the sorceress slash goddess, well, that simply in the real world, the rationale is because modeled after motifs in barbarian aspects of pop culture, for lack of a better word, which is why the original He-Man had a horned helmet. All right, so now to get to the canon version and the continuity of why Teela slash the Green Goddess wears snake armor. So for that, we have to talk about Hero and the character to his right, Shirella. So I've mentioned Shirella before in a previous video talking about the origins of the Green Goddess. This is in the Classics continuity who the Green Goddess really is. So Shirella's only actual appearance in Motu canon previous to Classics was in the Hero bio from the 1987 licensor kit, where she's noted as kind of Hero's love interest and another character in his world. So, in the Motu Classics mini-comics, we use this to tie up lots of continuities together and drop in characters that didn't really get action figures. One of them being this one, Quick Flick, the Snake Man Archer. Never got an action figure, but like so many other characters, did get shown in the mini-comics. So you see here Quick Flick shooting a poison arrow at Hero's main squeeze, Shirella, taken from the Titus packaging, where she was supposedly visually on there, and then gets a blood transfusion from Mossman in order to feed off the poison, keep her alive. And the result of this is it turned her skin green, gave her magical powers, immortality, and she wound up becoming a very powerful character. All right, great. So that explains how Shirella becomes the goddess, or Green Goddess, or Eternian Goddess, depending on which toy line it is, in the Masters of the Universe Classics continuity. Now, we never got a vintage figure of Teela, or at least the Teela sculpt, with green skin, but a lot of fan customs over the years have shown what it possibly could have looked like had that actually been released. So, what is with the snake armor? Why is she wearing snake armor when snake men are the bad guys? Well, the poison that Shirella was poisoned with, think of it as the snake armor helped sort of plug the leak. It helped keep the poison from destroying her. It was a safety device. And that's the exact same reason why Teela later on wears the snake armor. It's armor that has the magic ability to hold back the sort of poison or evilness of the snake man when somebody is infected. And much like the goddess was poisoned by a snake man, Teela was also poisoned by the snake man in 2000X. And this is where we go full circle to that question asked at the fan panel at San Diego Comic-Con. Was Teela ever going to wear the snake armor in 2000X? So in one episode, several characters, Man-at-Arms, Mechanic, and, as you guessed it, Teela were all turned into snake men by the Serpent's Ring. And while they got better, if you will, afterwards by restoring them back to their human form, it would later be revealed in the episode 39, which was only released as a comic book, pack in with DVDs, but it was the script written for episode 39, was that Man-at-Arms was going to revert back to his Snake Man persona. The idea was once you get turned into a Snake Man, it forever changes your DNA, and you could always revert back. There's no 100% cure. Now, this was also done to sell more toys, because now Snake Man-at-Arms could be sold as a toy in various form factors. As proof of that, the Funko Pop Snake Man-at-Arms figure. He was also going to be responsible for creating vehicles for the Snake Men, so that vehicles could be sold for the 2000X line for the Snake Men. Since the Evil Warriors had vehicles and the Heroic Warriors had vehicles, Snake Man-at-Arms was going to create these. Alright, so what about Snake Teela? So, like Mechaneck and Teela, well, like Mechaneck, Teela was restored back to her human form. But, like Man-at-Arms, the DNA was always supposed to be there, under her skin, no pun intended. And because Teela was very important to the fate of Eternia, something needed to be done. When Man-at-Arms realized that the Snake persona was coming back, he knew, or at least that it was still inside him, he knew that it was also inside Mechaneck and inside of Teela. And Teela was the daughter of the Sorceress, and was destined to become the new Sorceress. So, her life was extremely important to the safety of Castle Grayskull, the planet, the free people of Eternia, etc. So, the snake armor was needed to protect her as well. So in the 2000X series, eventually she would have worn the snake armor. It would have been used to suppress the poison, the snake DNA that she had received through the serpent's ring that had turned her into a snake man, or snake woman. Much like it helped the Green Goddess and kept back the poison, it was going to keep Teela in her human form from reverting back to a snake man, like Man-at-Arms did. Alright, so the other question is her staff, the Staff of Ka, which is named in the bios. Okay, that explains why she wore snake armor, but why does she carry a snake stick? And this was the stick that was once carried by King Hiss during the Preternia days, the days of Hero and Shirella and Titus and all of that. You can see him here in the very first Motu Classics minicomic wielding the Staff of Ka, about to, smash He-Man with it. So, this one was explained in a little bit more of a humorous way. Fans were asking constantly over and over again, how does Teela get the Staff of Ka? Where does it come from? And, well, to answer that, we decided to do a little bit in the mini-comics, and it featured Skrullos. If you don't know who Skrullos is, he's the guy who was answering all the fan mail in the UK mini-comics, or actually full comics, and the newspaper strips back in the 80s. So this is what he looked like, and Axel redrew this image of him to show what he could look like in classics. So here he is, like other characters that never made it into the line, and he basically is answering viewer mail saying, well, here's how Teela got the Staff of Ka. She walked into her father's office and opened up a closet, and it fell out, and she said, hey, Dad, can I use this? And he said, yeah, sure. There you go. That's how she got it. It was in her dad's weapon closet. Now, how it got into her weapon closet, oh, that's a story for another time, but it's really not as important because obviously Man-at-Arms is going to store things, and he may not have been aware of exactly what this was and who it was carried by, and it got stored in his closet, and Teela eventually grabbed it. So, the Goddess, the Sorceress, Green Goddess, whatever you want to call her, and Teela both share the fact that independently they needed to wear the snake armor in order to suppress the snake poison. And yes, there are definitely some confusing things with her wearing it, the Sorceress wearing it before she had the bird motif, and, well, that's just because Motu has a lot of convoluted stories that don't always make sense together. And because Teela is the daughter of the Sorceress, well, in some continuities, she just becomes the Green Goddess. In others, she's going to inherit her powers. Either way, the snake armor does link them together, and the story-wise rationale is that it was going to suppress the poison. So, whether you're meeting Teela at the San Diego Comic-Con booth, or you're just enjoying collecting her many action figures, that is the reason why Teela wears armor that looks like a snake, and the snake men being bad guys, why she's wearing armor based on the bad guys. I hope this video clarified a long Motu mystery and how it was going to play out in both 2000X and in Classics if the lines continued and the show continued. Leave comments below, let me know what you think. Share this video with others, it helps the algorithm. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.